It's election season 2024, so get ready for your blood pressure to massively spike. Despite some people stubbornly not getting it, the reality is that transit is inherently political. So let's see who helps and who hurts us on getting transit built and maintained this fall. I'll keep this voter's guide short and sweet, because I do not have time to do this, but the election also does not wait. We'll start at the top, which, for once, is probably the most consequential race for transit funding. I probably shouldn't have to say this, but to be clear, Harrison Walls will be fantastic for transit funding, and Project 2025, the agenda for a second Trump term drafted by Trump administration policy advisors, specifically calls for an end to federal transit funding. So, yeah. I doubt there's a ton of people watching for whom this is some kind of revelation, but worth pointing out all the same. And for the willfully moronic, nuh-uh people who try to insist that Project 2025 is not Trump's policy, Mr. I don't even know who that guy is, literally took a private plane ride with the Project 2025 author to give a keynote address at his conference where he said, verbatim, "They're going to lay the groundwork and detail plans for exactly what our movement will do." And then Vance wrote the foreword to the dude's book. Oh, and then literally last week, Trump announced that another Project 2025 author would come on board in his next administration to draft policy. Ah! Look, conservatives, I am sorry for you that people actually found out what Project 2025 is, forcing the campaign to try to distance itself from it. But if you don't believe that that's what they're going to enact if they win, I don't know how to help you. I do, however, have an NFT of a bridge to sell you. Vote for Kamala Harris. I won't talk about a lot of congressional races, but here's a few that I want to highlight. California 23, a high desert seat, isn't likely to go blue, but it has a really good Dem candidate in Derek Marshall, who wants commuter rail along the I-15 corridor, and, more relevant to the congressional position, wants to increase the budget of the FTA for rapid transit and high-speed rail, and require electrification of all railways by 2040. If you're in this district, give Derek Marshall your vote. Probably the purplest district in the state, in Santa Clarita, California 27 sees Joris Whitesides trying to unseat Mike Garcia. Like every California Republican, Garcia wants to slash the gas tax, while also supporting the hydrogen train boondoggle at Metrolink and wanting to torpedo California high-speed rail. Whitesides might not have said much on transit, but, well, he's not that. Please ditch Garcia and vote George Whitesides in California 27. Another one of the purplest seats of the state is California 45. Democrat Derek Tran is running against incumbent Republican Michelle Steele. Steele is another crusader against California high-speed rail. Please stop sending people to Congress who want to stop money for critical transit projects coming into your own state. Vote Derek Tran. There are many state races, so I'm just gonna hone in on the ones likely to actually be competitive. In the high desert in Santa Clarita, this is Kip Mueller, I don't know.
Bueller.
Versus Suzette Martinez Valladares. Valladares wants to reduce the gas tax, which is not going to help public transit or the environment one iota, while Mueller has made climate a plank of his campaign and has indicated support for public transit expansion. Mueller winning this would flip the seat blue and give residents in the area a consequential voice in the State House and a better opportunity to center transit in their region. Mueller for Senate District 23. SD 35 covers parts of South LA and the South Bay, and features two Dems facing off, Michelle Chambers and Laura Richardson. This was probably the toughest race for me to discern, but ultimately, for me, it comes down to the donor list for the candidates. California YIMBY is supporting Chambers, which is an org that values transit-oriented development and pushes for the kind of zoning changes at the state level that can help transit thrive, and this is, keep in mind, a state position. Richardson, on the other hand, counts Chevron and Uber among her biggest donors. Chambers, I think, will be significantly better for transit in an office that desperately needs someone willing to tackle the hard fights. Vote Chambers for SD 35. AD 40 is Santa Clarita again, plus some Valley. This one is Democrat Pilar Shivo against Republican Patrick Lee Gibson, and likely to be decided by a hair. I've seen at least one progressive voter guide absolutely lambaste Shivo for abandonment of left-wing positions on a lot of issues, but her opponent is one of the crazies who wants to completely suspend the gas tax, and one of these two people is going to represent the district in the State House. Vote Shivo, and if you want something different, focus on the next primary and on lobbying her during her term. another purple district that includes the Coachella Valley, we have an incumbent Republican versus Dem challenger. Greg Wallace, the incumbent Republican, wants to, you guessed it, kill the gas tax. Vote Christy Holstage. 8054 is Dem on Dem, John Yee versus Mark Gonzalez. I previously recommended Yee in the primary video, then heard some troubling things about him trying to kill Measure HLA confusingly. That said, Yee remains the more transit-focused candidate and supports changing the Metro Board to be elected instead of appointed, which would probably help transit the region, although I don't know if he would have any say over that in the State Assembly. Ultimately, though, I'm still probably going to have to go with Yee in 8054. This South LA seat is another Dem-on-Dem fight where fundraising tells a story. Both claim transit as a priority, but Efron Martinez counts Chevron as well as Marathon Petroleum among his donors, whereas Said El-Hawari has a much more labor-oriented donor base that tends to favor infrastructure expansion for the jobs it creates. By my eye, El-Hawari is the safe bet for 8057. The only local LA elections left are the ones where someone didn't breach 50% in the primary, so there aren't a ton, but they are among the most important. I've talked about this exact matchup in the primary video, and Burgos continues to be the candidate that has aligned herself much more firmly with the pro-transit coalition, and crucially, explicitly supports heavy rail for the Sepulveda Pass, which I fear is going to be more of a fight than it should be. Her voice helping us on this could be crucial. Burgos for CD2. While Heather Hutt wasn't my first choice for this seat, especially due to her shenanigans with the La Brea bus lanes, she is significantly better than her remaining opponent, who I think would be very much actively bad for all transit, so in that spirit, Hutt for CD10. There are many reasons to vote Gerardo over KDL, but transit also happens to be one of them, though it may be overshadowed by other issues. KDL acquiesced to NIMBY homeowners in Eagle Rock when it came to the NoHo Pasadena BRT line, while Gerardo is an excellent transit advocate and writer, with transit being a huge focus of her campaign. I know some people are displeased with their stance against the Dodger Stadium gondola, a project that I have said many times I am utterly indifferent to, but even if you weighed that against the rest of her stances, she comes out way, way, way ahead. Please don't let Kevin De Leon keep collecting a paycheck from us. Gerardo for CD14. As for the many non-LA municipalities around here, I mean, there's so many of them. I'm sorry, I don't have the bandwidth. But check Streets for All's voter guide. It can probably lead you correctly. The link is in the description. Finally, let's do propositions and measures, addressing only the ones that I feel will have significant transit impacts. This one is interesting. It would expand the LA County Board of Supervisors from 5, a ludicrously small number representing 10 million people, to 9, still a ludicrously small number, and add an elected county official with expanded powers. Depending on how the new districts are drawn, this may ultimately serve to water down urban influence on the county level in favor of suburban interests, and a powerful and hostile to transit county exec could potentially harm Metro, a county agency, more than a pro-Metro one could help. Ultimately, I'm gonna vote yes because increasing representation does feel like the right thing to do, but I will acknowledge that this is a tricky one, and it is hard to say exactly what the downstream effects of this will be when it comes to transit. LA Charter Amendment DD moves to fix our hideous redistricting system that essentially lets current city council members draw their own districts via appointed representatives. Instead, DD would have an independent commission aiming to end gerrymandering. This would hopefully reverse the watering down of votes of transit-dependent communities in favor of wealthy homeowning communities, which have dominated LA local politics since, well, pretty much forever. This is a huge move that can help get pro-transit candidates elected consistently, so vote yes on DD. This would lower the threshold for approving bonds for public infrastructure, including transit, from 2/3 to 55%. It would limit the ability of a NIMBY minority to stall progress, so this is an obvious yes on State Prop 5. And that's it for this election. Godspeed, may we all survive it.